Well, it's no secret that the United States of America is a nation divided. Over the last few years, riots in Ferguson, Oakland, Baltimore, and other cities have made national news. And so Bishop Harry Jackson says it's past time for the church to step up.
As racial tension increases in the U.S., many people wonder how we can close the racial divide in our communities. Bishop Harry Jackson says there is hope. He gives lectures and hosts conferences about racial reconciliation. As senior pastor of Hope Christian Church in Washington, D.C., he believes the church should play a vital role in unifying people of all races.
Well, Bishop Harry Jackson is here with us, and welcome back. It's great to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Gordon.
You say that the racial divide in America is actually prophesied of in the Bible.
It really is. If you look at Jesus' famous Matthew 24 passage, he says, in the last days, nation will rise against a nation. The underlying Greek word, as you know, is ethnos or ethnicities. So tribalism is hardwired. Also, if you look at the Bible, the initial division that we find at the Tower of Babel, where we all were one, essentially one race, and all had one language, and because they were moving in rebellion against God, he said, I'm going to break up the unity, the false unity without God, and everybody had their own language. On the day of Pentecost, however, Gordon, they came together when they all spoke in tongues as the Spirit gave utterance, and people heard men who they knew had not learned these languages by natural means. They realized God was unifying, reunifying humankind under the auspices of Jesus Christ.
Well, how did the early church deal with it? Because they did have it. Yes. There was a Jewish-Gentile divide, and then there were lots of other ethne
Yes.
involved. How did they deal with it?
Well, in the writings of Paul, he kept exhorting them to be one. And he said there's neither Jew nor Greek, male or female. And the idea really is whatever it is that you're defining distinction, in Christ we ought to come together, work together, love one another, and together we're a corporate expression of who Jesus is in the earth. So Paul, actually, his church in Rome was a guy who, as a prisoner, converted his prison guards, and the church in Rome had all kinds of people who were slaves teaching people that were free. So our history is we've eclipsed social barriers. That's our history and our background. If we can unify the church in America as a united force, we could then bring healing to a very divided land.
Well, what you're saying actually goes against either the current practice,
yes,
or against even missiology. Yes. You know, that the keys to church growth are all about finding community of like-minded people, and yes, that usually means same race,
yeah,
same economic status,
exactly,
and that's the key. You want to be surrounded by people that look and act like you.
Yeah.
How do you break through that?
Well, I think that's where discipleship comes in. I think what we've missed is that when we talk about the kingdom to someone who gets born again, and by the way, I prayed years ago in a hotel room in Cleveland, Ohio with your father to receive Jesus. So I think when people get saved, though, they need to see the kind of modeling that was done back there in the 700 Club. Black and a white guy working together, multiple races coming together. If we disciple people in that manner, they won't think it's strange to have friendships and affiliation. So two sides of racism in America is one is individual heart change so that I don't hate you, for example. But then the structural problems in our culture, which means if you've been to prison, you don't get a second chance at life, or if you don't have very good reading skills, you can't get a job. There are many things that we could do collaboratively, collectively as the church to begin to bring forth that healing process. But I'm shouting to the nation, hey, everybody, we're one, and we're the nation's answer.
Right. Do we have to be intentional with it?
Yes.
More than just aspirational, more than just say, okay, I see this in the Bible. There was a unity there that, yes, that transcended everything, and that spiritual unity. But
yes,
how would you advise a pastor today if they wanted to take their church down this road, what do they need to do?
Well, at our website, we talk about bridges to peace. So I'll just give you a couple of them. Can't go into all. But I would say pick something you want to do that has short-term, intermediate, and long-term fruit to heal the structural problems of racism. And let's work together in terms of having people of many races worshiping together as much as you can in your church or partnering with other churches. That's where it starts. But I think we've got to be practical, and 3 practical areas: educational reform. Folk who don't do well at the 3rd grade in reading, writing, and arithmetic, they wind up in prison. Another thing, you can't get a job. My destiny is tied into what I do for a living, my sense of purpose, my value. So what kinds of things could you do in your city to bring jobs? And then criminal justice reform is something that I'm really big on. How can a church, if someone has a heart for helping people, how can they select a couple of people a year to help them return to their families, be discipled in the Word, get a good job, stay the course in terms of being there in their family and their community? So that's a broad overview.
Well, I agree with you on all of them, and particularly reforming the criminal justice system. I think it's absolutely broken. And,
Yes.
And we're hearing yet again a call, let's get tough on crime, or let's get tough on sentencing, but we're not realizing the overall social impact of that.
We really aren't. This coming Tuesday, there's going to be a big meeting with Prison Fellowship. You may know I'm on the board of Prison Fellowship. Chuck Colson started the organization. And we're going to have a justice declaration, and it's simply what you're saying. Church, recognize that we have a dog in this fight, meaning we want to show the mercy and love and kindness of God and forgiveness to people who've messed up. And let's not just discard people. Let's be the purveyors and extend a second chance to people. And in some very tangible ways, groups like the NAE, Prison Fellowship, the Colson Center, and the Southern Baptist Convention religion and ethics groups are coming together just to blow one note and say, let's think about the forgotten who have wound up in prison, and let's evangelize them, let's disciple them, let's bring them back into the fold of American destiny.
Well, can we also focus on the legislation? Because I think it needs to start there as well. How do we seem to be locking people up at a record rate. How can we say if it's a non-violent offense, now what do we do? Is prison the right way?
Yes.
Is there another way to go?
Well, there's a study that's just coming out, we don't have time to go into it, by George Barna about our societal ideas. Most people believe that if you go to prison, that you're going to become a better criminal. The average person has gotten that far in their thinking that there may be another way. But I believe that certain groups like Prison Fellowship are doing great advanced work. But you're right, I think we're going to have to, as Christians, put these things on the ballots and look at these kinds of reforms. Remember, take away the box, the idea of checking the box if you've ever been in prison, if you're looking for a place to stay or a house or apartment. Those specific things will require legislation. And all across America, it is not uniform. In D.C., you will have halfway housing opportunities where you can get your life, get a little bit of money, retrain yourself, and then go back to the world. There are some states where you just get sent out, you get a little check, and you're on your own, back to where you came from. So I think you're right. I think we have to get the message, we're the change agents, and then we need to do some specific things. And they can come to us at our website, we'll have some specifics, but also great groups like Prison Fellowship are doing amazing things. But guess what? Will not surprise you. Until there's a demand made on the political, which is maybe your point, till the church says, hey, we're going to vote you out of office at a local to the presidential level. If you don't do something about it, it's not going to change. So now's the time to change. It's urgent. Democrats and Republicans both see a need. The problem is not enough people are blowing the trumpet from the pew, or I should say from the polling booth, right?
And from the pulpit.
Yeah, and for the pulpit.
Yeah, let's blow the shofar on this one, and yeah, let's get together. All right, well, let's do that.
Wonderful.
I'll be glad to work with you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us.